Well, hello there, my lovelies. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Yes. This is your good friend, the lover. Remember me? And I'm here to do a real AEW All Out review. Because the one the hater did wasn't good. You know? I really don't like what the hater says. He's really not very fun. I heard a really good joke actually. Some people called him the fillator. Isn't that hilarious, guys? That's so funny. Those two guys are so clever. They really get my gears going. Anyways, the hater, as usual, had no idea what he was talking about. AEW All Out 2021 was the best pay-per-view of all time. Okay? Anyone that knows anything, Wade Heller, whatever his name is, Dave Meltzer, all these guys really understand that AEW All Out is an incredible pay-per-view, one of the best wrestling shows of all time. I mean, who cares about all the good WrestleManias during the Attitude Era, WrestleMania 17, even WrestleMania 15? Who cares about these shows, right? Who cares about the Survivor Series and the amazing things that we've seen, Hell in a Cell at King of the Ring? Who cares about this? Why would anyone be interested in seeing an old man like Undertaker fight another old man like Mankind when you could see someone like Wheeler Yuta, the clear future of wrestling, wrestle against Jack Evans? I mean, that right there was a 5-star match, guys. The 10-man tag team match was a 5-star match. You know, think about it. And this was just the pre-show. So you know dispositively that this is the best wrestling pay-per-view of all time. You know what I mean? I mean, how can any of this be disputed at this point? AEW is clearly the greatest wrestling entity of all time. Next up, we had Nero versus Eddie Kingston. This match was a 5-star match. There is no doubt about it, guys. This is one of the best matches I've ever seen from Miro. Miro, by the way, was someone that was completely and utterly misused by WWE. And anyone that says otherwise is not a good wrestling fan. They really don't get wrestling. Let's be honest, guys. Miro was not well used by WWE. Compare that to the way he's being used now. You know, people really did not like it. They didn't like it, guys, when Miro had a cuckold gimmick. But people really love the direction of Miro now. He talks about Jesus in his promos, and he's basically kind of like Mordecai. Remember that really cool character, Mordecai, from back in the day, guys? That's who Miro is now. So WWE really dropped the ball on him. They could have had their second Mordecai on their hands, but instead they made him into a Russian brute that main evented WrestleMania. But who cares about main eventing WrestleMania, or at least being in one of the main events of WrestleMania? That's not important. Being on like one of the main matches on WrestleMania against John Cena is nothing compared to the honor of fighting the best tough guy in wrestling history in the second match of the pay-per-view, Eddie Kingston, for the mid-card title. Why wrestle John Cena at WrestleMania for the mid-card title when you can wrestle Eddie Kingston in the opening match of AEW All Out for the mid-card title? I mean, think about it, guys. What I'm saying makes perfect sense. Next up, we had another guy who WWE did not use correctly, Jon Moxley. Okay, look, hear me out, guys. Jon Moxley is not the same thing as Dean Ambrose. Despite the fact that they act exactly the same way, have the exact same moves, right? Talk the exact same way in the promos, have the same kind of attitude, you know, they are not the same character. This is Jon Moxley, guys. He is completely different from Dean Ambrose. He's completely different. Completely, guys. Take my word for it. He wrestled legendary wrestler Satoshi Kojima, who everyone should know by name at this point. Jon Moxley won a hard-fought battle, hitting a perfect move called the Snatch Suplex, which he calls, of course, the Paradigm Shift. And a lot of people are saying that this was not a real move, but I personally think that those people are bad wrestling fans. Next up, guys, we had Dr. Britt Baker, the greatest female wrestler of all time, with the returning Jamie Hayter. Boy, we missed her. And Rebel wrestling against Chris Statlander, whose gimmick is the very, very clever idea that she's a space alien. I mean, this is what WWE is missing. This kind of creativity. You know, the lover thinks that Chris Statlander is one of the best wrestlers of all time, And Orange Cassidy was there too, so you know that this match was hilarious. Anyways, Britt Baker won. It wasn't really like a very long match, but it really showcased the women of AEW. Next up, we had the greatest match I've ever seen in my life in terms of tag team wrestling. We had the Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks in easily the greatest cage match of all time. Now, my favorite spot was when the Young Bucks took 20 minutes to pull out a shoe from a bag. They used this shoe, so clever guys, they used it to beat up their opponents, and they used it for a super kick. Another great part was when all four of these wrestlers, who were looking amazing by the way guys, were standing in a square formation and kicking each other on their faces, right? Needless to say, I laughed quite a lot at this match while also enjoying and appreciating the great effort put on by four of the best wrestlers we've ever seen. Pentagon, Rey Fenix, and the Young Bucks, who are the best tag team of all time. Then we had an incredible exhibition in women's wrestling, motherfuckers. In this match, you guys like how I said motherfuckers? The lover can be naughty sometimes. In this match, we had 20 of the best women wrestlers of all time wrestling until they were all surpassed by the greatest women's wrestler ever, Ruby Soho, who coincidentally is another wrestler where WWE dropped the ball. Think about that, guys. Think about that. Ruby Soho should have been where Charlotte is now. Ruby Soho should have main evented WrestleMania. But she didn't. She didn't. But it doesn't matter. Because main eventing WrestleMania means nothing. Means nothing, guys. It means absolutely nothing compared to the great honor of winning the Women's Casino Battle Royal. Or Royale, I'm sorry. She beat Thunder Rosa, another legend. And she will now be challenging Britt Baker for the title. I cannot wait. Next, we had Chris Jericho beating the dastardly MJF, who reminds me a lot of The Rock, guys. He reminds me a lot of The Rock. And Jericho wrestled MJF, and he won in what was another 5-star classic, guys. We always like the last 3 matches the most. And this pay-per-view was no different. The legendary CM Punk, who is undoubtedly the greatest wrestling entity in history, beat the new version of CM Punk, Darby Allin. He beat him, and it was an incredible match, guys. This proved why CM Punk is the best in the world. And if you don't think so, you must be a hater fan, because only a hater would say that kind of thing about CM Punk, who is my favorite wrestler of all time. He's in my top 10. Anyways, after that, we had a horrible match that served as a cool-down match between the amazing CM Punk match and the even more amazing main event. We had Paul White versus QT Marshall. Now, while this match was one of the only matches that actually had a story, it didn't matter because this match was bad because it had Paul White, and he's bad, okay? Because he's not 5'3" like I like my wrestlers. He's not Finn Balor. Where is Finn Balor? I want him here in AEW. Paul White was not good, and he should go back to WWE where he belongs. Lastly, we had Kenny Omega beating Christian Cage in the best title match I've ever seen in my life. Christian Cage isn't that good, but Kenny Omega is the greatest wrestler of all time, so he obviously carried Christian Cage in this main event. After this, Daniel Bryan, who is back to being the American Dragon Bryan Danielson, and Adam Cole, the greatest NXT wrestler of all time, both debuted. This show was the best wrestling show of all time. As a matter of fact, without even counting the pre-show, which also had Matt Hardy, a WWE wrestler, in it, let's look at how many of these matches were completely contingent on former WWE champions. Nero is a WWE guy, and he won his match against an AEW guy. Moxley beat some Japanese guy named Satoshi Kojima, who we should all know by name, by the way. John Moxley beat him. That's 2 WWE guys going over. Think about that, guys. Then we had 2 matches with no WWE people. And then Ruby Soho debuted and beat everyone in AEW. So that's another one. Jericho, another AEW wrestler who first wrestled for WWE, he also beat MJF, who was an original. That's 4. CM Punk, Paul White, both WWE guys, won their matches. The only match where a WWE guy lost, and he didn't even lose clean, was the last one. So this proves that AEW knows what they're doing, guys. They are taking the right wrestlers from WWE. They are taking the correct wrestlers from WWE and leaving the other ones behind. Why would anyone want to try to sign John Cena or Randy Orton when you can sign Nero and I don't know, Ruby Soho, who are both legends? Needless to say, guys, you know, the Lover hasn't been around in a while, but the Lover had to just do his review on AEW All Out because it was the best pay-per-view the Lover had ever seen. And I don't think any pay-per-view ever will be able to beat it. So with that, my lovelies, I'll talk to you later.